Hello and welcome to another, I always say it's a fantastic episode. No, we're going to say welcome to a thoroughly mediocre episode of SEGA Sonic Radio. I don't know. Starting different this week, I don't know. It's been a crazy day. Let's just call it a crazy day, and I don't know, it'll probably be a fun episode. It'll probably be a solid episode. I wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Hey, I'm not putting anyone on blast here for this. Like, this is not targeted, but I did want to kind of, give some explanations to some stuff. I am occasionally getting in some requests that kind of fall out of the scope of the show. It's happened in a couple places, and like I said, I'm not here to shame anyone for this. I just kind of want to specify, like, putting together SEGA Sonic Radio is a lengthy process. Even after a lot of my optimizations for show setup, it's usually like somewhere in the realm of at least 2 hours of setup time to put together the playlist, to put together all the overlay aspects, to compile lists of requests across 4 different sources. And the last thing I like to do is ever tell anyone, no, I cannot play this track. But I've just kind of been in a situation where I've had to say it a couple times in a way that I generally feel pretty bad about, but just realistically, for logistic purposes, I've kind of had to say, look, I appreciate that you have a cool vision of what could be a song in the show, but it's not a Sonic game, it's not a Sega game, it is not a game that we've ever reflected in the show, and it's pretty normal for, if I ever want to add a new album to the library for the show, that's usually somewhere in the realm of an hour of work, depending on how involved the soundtrack's composition and arrangement are, so that I can properly attribute metadata. So I ask for your understanding. If you have a request for the show, whenever you make that request, please keep it within the scope of Sonic, within the scope of Sega, or the Sega extended family, like, hey, other companies that Sega owns, Atlas, maybe Rovio. Rovio's a pain point for me in trying to get proper metadata tagging for it, including things as basic as track names. And hey, if I've played a game soundtrack on the show before, consider that fair game. Like, hey, GX has played a Donkey Kong Country game before on the show. He probably has the Donkey Kong Country soundtracks. I might request something like that at some point. It just makes it easier for me. It makes it so that I don't have to, I don't want to have, the last thing I ever want to do is have to police the requests, because I think you guys have a great sense of, like, oh, this song would go great in a show about the depths, which is tonight's theme. Speaking of great requests that go with tonight's theme, we're kicking it off with some Sonic Lost Worlds and some requests coming at you from Knuckles87 and MFA. Hope you enjoy. Catch you guys on the other side. Hey, welcome back. That was me primarily digging through a bunch of CSS, trying to figure out why chat is no longer respecting my, my font choices. Doesn't respect me. That was Careening Cavern from Sonic Lost Worlds, as requested by Knuckles87, followed up by Bungee Chase from Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, wrapping up with Irate 8 Tension version from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, as requested by MFA. We also kicked off the show with Asteroid Coaster Act 3 from Sonic Colors, which I did not really say whenever I started the show. So that's great. But what I will say is that it's time for the Spinbox. There we go. There we go. The Spinbox is up. We got a Spinbox. We've got a Spinbox. Oh, D-Days, I have tried so much. I have tried so many font families to give me my precious, precious Oswald font that I use for my overlays, and it has just said no, even if I tell it that it's very important. Anyhow, Keanu the Hedgehog asks, if Sonic Tails were to explore a cave in one piece and collect the Chaos Emeralds from Eggman, will the cave start crumbling? Will Sonic and Tails get out alive, or will Eggman finally crush them? To which I would say, well, that depends heavily on how well you play the game. If you've had a lot of practice in level, then yeah, they'll probably get out. It's most likely. If you haven't had a lot of practice, or you hit too many obstacles, then no, they're probably done for, and it will be your fault. It will be your fault that the world has been taken over. With that in mind, we have some requests, including one from Keanu the Hedgehog, as well as another from Mio over on the Twitter. So let's get ready for some Sonic Unleashed. Hope you enjoy. I'll catch you guys in a bit. Hey, welcome back. That was Jungle Joyride Night from Sonic Unleashed, as requested by Keanu the Hedgehog. Followed up by Dive into Gravity from Sonic Rider Zero Gravity. Wrapping it up with Cold Smile from Mega Man 03, as requested by Neo. Hey, I think it's about time for a quiz. Chat may not be respecting my browser's choice of font. I have to figure out why it's not. But you know what is respecting my commands is the chat board, the quiz board. It at least is okay with me. And it's gonna show you a Quizone. That's right, we got some Sonic Trivia, as always. With all of our Sonic Trivia, you are welcome to guess in chat. If you don't want to guess in chat, you certainly don't have to. You can just hide chat. Just as I am hiding it on screen right now. So that we can tell you an answer later. It's some Sonic Trivia time. Test your Sonic Trivia skills with this question. And it's a Sonic 3 question. The 5 competition stages in Sonic 3 are listed in a specific order. What's special about this order? Take a guess, and while you do, we've got some Endless Mine for you. Take a listen. We'll let you know the answer on the other side. Yeah, I am muted. It's not. Hey, it wouldn't be an episode without me being muted at some point. Ooh, boy, I chose Helvetica. That's acceptable, I guess, but it's not what we want out of font on screen for chat. Jeez. Anyhow, as chat did guess correctly, the first letters of each form the sequence A, B, C, D, E. Azure Lake, Balloon Park, Chrome Gadget, Desert Palace, and Endless Mine. Hey, if you also did not know, in Sonic R, all 5 tracks also begin with R. It's true. Go look at the tracks. They all do. Let's go ahead and put away the quiz board for now. It'll be back for some music later, and we've got a couple more requests coming at you, including one from Karma Collector and another from Sonic Trainer. And with that in mind, I think it's about to head to Sonic Adventure 2. Let's take a listen. Catch you guys in a bit.
Everybody flow with me. This is your boy Knuckles, and this is Aquatic Mind. Come on, y'all. Let's take a dive in Aquatic Mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's your bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box. In Aquatic Mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's your bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. I stay knuckled up, I'm in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna cut me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. I'm in narrow hallways, running like it's a ball game. Hand tracks be tracking me to different doorways. In a maze, and I don't know what to do. Guaranteed though, I'ma find the emeralds. Don't call me Knuckles for nothing, I get loose. Sure bees fighting with them foes all the time, but I gotta do it, they always stay out of line. Sometimes I wanna just chill and land, but I'm the protector of the emeralds and gems. Stay knuckled up in a deep cut. I'm seeing skulls that burn, they tryna throw me off. Avoiding my luck, I'm feeling kinda stuck. Don't call me Knuckles, give me a box.
the wax and spinning the sound.
It's just gonna keep making sounds like that. It just goes for a couple more seconds. Hey! We're back, and we have a functional font that does not have a bunch of unnecessary serifs. So that's cool. That was kicking it off with Dive Into the Mellow from Sonic Adventure 2, as requested by the Karma Collector, followed up by Let's Get This Party Started from Sonic Adventure, as requested by Sonic Trainer. And then in the middle was Grave Throbbing from Crypt of the Necro Dancer. So that's cool. It was requested by me. I put it there. Myself. It seemed like a good idea, and people seemed to like it. So I call that a success. And if you don't like it, then you need to file a formal complaint. Let's tell you, Knuckles, it's there. Should be there. Maybe you're behind. Anyhow. Yeah. We got some requests coming at you. And after these requests, we got a quiz. But before these requests, we got a Spinbox. It's a Spinbox from Epically Epic Guy. Epically Epic Guy asks, what was the first game you ever completed? So I'll take this in two directions. I'll go with Sonic completion and a non-Sonic completion. My first Sonic game that I completed was Sonic 2, back on the Genesis, because when I was a kid, I had a Genesis. And my family started with the Genesis 2, which pretty famously was quite frequently bundled with Sonic 2. So there's a lot of copies of Sonic 2 out there. And I was so proud of myself when I beat that game that I wrote a school report on it whenever I had to discuss something that I was proud about. Oh, Knuckles, don't you ever pretend that you aren't roughly as old. At no point don't you pretend that you are not roughly as old. However, if you really want to go with the old claims, my family has had an NES, about when I was 5. And one of my favorite games to rent that I adored, that I would rent over and over when I was young, was called Donkey Kong Classics. And it was a compilation cartridge of the NES port of the original arcade Donkey Kong and the NES port of Donkey Kong Jr. And I loved that game. And one of the reasons why I loved that game was because I could beat it. And by beating the game, I mostly meant, hey, I got through 100 meters. And then it would start over. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to get to 100 meters again. Yay, I beat the game! And then eventually it would get too hard and I would fail. Me not realizing it was actually getting that hard, but, you know, I could beat the game in the way that I defined beating the game. And I certainly appreciated that as a young person. It might not be the game that I was able to beat first, but it was a very memorable game that I could beat. And like the other things that were in my library at that age were things like I don't know, like the original Mario, which was the original Super Mario Brothers for NES, which was definitely not a game that I beat at that age. I don't know, Duck Hunt? I don't think Duck Hunt counts. I was not in any way prepared to try to beat Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. I would need one of my parents to go through Space Mountain for me. I could kind of do some of the others, but I needed them to do Space Mountain for me. Maybe Chippendale's Rescue Rangers? That might have been something that I could eventually beat with, like, a second player helping me. But yeah. Oh! Chat. Now chat. Okay, chat is on screen. But yeah, if you've got games on screen, definitely share. I will tell you this, Knuckles. Echo Jr. was a game that I rented very often and was thrilled that I could beat. Because it is a very beatable game, which is not something that you could say about any of the other Echo games, which I also rented from time to time. It was like, oh, there's something with this game. I cannot deal with it. I don't know if I'm gonna rent this one again. And I inevitably rented again. I was like, oh, I did that again. Why did I do that? I should stop trying to deal with the Echo series. But I hope that you will deal with some requests coming at you. We got a request from Epically Epic Guy, who wanted some obscure music, as well as one from Pocket Ellery. So let's jump into some Sonic 2 ? But not quite. Enjoy! See you in a bit. Hi, I hope you can hear me. Hoping that you can see me right now. Let's see, OBS disconnected again. Hi, I think I should be live. So that wasn't me. Let's see, I'm gonna go tell chat that, Okay. I don't know what that was about. Cause I was still there in Twitch chat with all y'all. And then it just decides like, well, hey, what if OBS can't connect to Twitch anymore? What if we, like, disconnect from it? I was like, no, I would like you to not... I would like you to not disconnect from Twitch. I'd like you to not disconnect from Twitch. That would not suit my needs very well. I was like, okay, well, I'll reconnect. Oh, no, I'm disconnecting again. So I decided to completely stop the stream. So if you're watching the recorded version, that's not going to have a weird break in the middle, because I did not stop recording locally. So hey, on YouTube, if things got weird for a second and quiet, that's why, as I attempted to fix this. But everyone should be good now. Everyone should be alright. Which is good, because it's time for Knuckles' favorite segment, the audio cue. Every week we give you some sort of series of quizzes, most of which involve, like, you know, letting you know what kinds of songs are what songs. And one of them asks you what the song is. And then you gotta guess the song. And maybe the song is correct, and maybe it's not, but it's always some sort of Sega or Sega adjacent thing. And I usually tell you which. And this time I give you a quiz. I'm gonna give you a clue. A clue for what the song is. And that clue is that it's an Atlas game. And it's on the DS. Fortunately, that's not a great that's not a fantastic clue, because Atlas made so many DS games. But I suppose I'll give you another clue. One of the prior 3 songs that just played is from the same composer as this song. That probably will help nobody. But if you know this composer really well, you may know what series that they are quite associated with. So take a listen. Get your guesses in chat if you want to guess in chat. If you don't want to guess in chat, you don't have to. We'll let you know the answer afterwards. Enjoy. Catch you in a bit. we had some good guesses in chat, but it looks like I picked yet another stumper. What Atlas DS game was that song from? That was from the very, very original on DS. Very, very DS. Etrian Odyssey. And most notably, Yuzo Koshiro is quite famously one of the, if not the core composers for the Etrian Odyssey series. Which, hey, he also did music for Beyond Oasis. First time you've heard of the game, I'm surprised. Etrian Odyssey is sort of a, we'll say, hardcore dungeon crawling game. And the degree to which it is hardcore is like, it explains profoundly little. It began by telling you by giving you extremely little story and just kind of leaving it up to you to, you know, fill in whatever gaps of a story you want to do for it. And most notably, it is a game about drawing your own maps of the dungeons that you're exploring. And this game specifically got remade a couple times, including a remake for the 3DS, where they actually gave it a story, which it previously did not have. And then, somewhat recently, they ported 1, 2, and 3 to various HD platforms just under the name Etrian Odyssey HD and 2 HD and 3 HD. Sold for surprisingly expensive prices, which, if you're an Etrian fan, you know, you're probably willing to do it just because they haven't put out another one of these in a fair while. Prior to the HD ones, the last one I can think of off the top of my head are the Etrian and Persona crossover games. Persona Q, which are indeed Etrian games, but with the Persona cast, telling a Persona story. So I got one more Persona. I got one more Etrian track for you queued up, as well as 2 more requests. One of them from Mr. Cypher, and the other one from Hasbomi. Both of those over on the socials, so enjoy! We're heading back into the labyrinth. Hey, welcome back, and you can hopefully hear me. Got another disconnect on Twitch. Again, we haven't stopped recording for the YouTube crowd, so you guys should be interrupted if you're listening to the YouTube version. And to the Twitch people, I apologize. I don't know what's up. I don't think it's on my end. I think it's on the Twitch side things. But, you know, I don't know. One of the streamers I was watching tonight was gonna stream some Shadow the Hedgehog, so maybe that's impacting things. Maybe Twitch said, oh, we need to stop this guy from doing this. But yeah. That was Labyrinth 6, Claret Hollows from Etrian Odyssey, followed up by Tropical Resort Act 2 from Sonic Colors Ultimate, requested by Mr. Cypher, wrapping it up with Minecart Adventures from Speeding Towards Adventure, an OC Remix album. This was a track by several people, Frieza, Jorito, and Joshua Taipale, and it was requested by Hasbomi. So that's all cool. That's all cool. You can find it and many, many other fantastic tracks over at ocremix.org. We might have another OC Remix track for you tonight before we wrap up. But before that, we have some more requests. We got our final 2 requests tonight, including one that came with another Spinbox letter. Let's open it up. Claire the Cat asks, do you think the rest of the Sonic cast will become DC heroes and villains? For example, Rouge as Catwoman. Probably not during this, this collaboration thing. If it was successful enough that they're like, hey, we want to do another collaboration with the Sonic the Hedgehog, then, you know, I don't know, they might decide to expand the scope a little bit. I could reasonably see that. There's toughest part is they've burned their most recognizable characters already. Like, they got the Superman, they got the Batman, they got the Wonder Woman, they got the Flash, they got the Cyborg. They got the Green Lantern. I'm trying to think, like, who would you make the Martian Manhunter? Who would you make Jean? Blazes Firestorm? Yeah, you could do a Blazes Firestorm. I'm trying to think who else you could the problem I deal with this is my interpretation of, like, who is like within the DC sphere of influence is heavily weighted by watching a lot of Justice League Unlimited and having a really warped sense of, like, who matters in the DC universe. Because there's a lot of characters in this that don't actually matter that much in the DC universe, but, you know, I have a lot of affection for. Cream would be a great Shazam, particularly with her weird... if you have to make her into a weird muscle-bound adult version. I don't know. Could we have Vector as Booster Gold? That's the answer I want. That's part of my answer. I don't know if that answers the question, but my answer is I want to see Vector as Booster Gold. That's whatever I'm answering as this question, that's... Oh. Ooh. Who would be Elastic Man? Because you couldn't just do Werehog. You can't just do Werehog as Elastic Man. It wouldn't fit. I'm stuck on this. I'll come up with an answer while we listen to some more music, including one song from Clara the Cat, as well as another request. Oh, Knuckles, you got it. Nah, yeah, you got it. Tangle would 100% be Mr. Elastic. That's. And then Whisper would be the question. I think we got something here. I think it works out. And, hey, we got a request from Clara the Cat, and we got a request from Court X Games. And it's time for some Shadow Generations. Enjoy. Catch you guys in a bit. welcome back. That was some music that continued to play the entire time without any major disconnects. One of them was White Space Underground from Sonic X Shadow Generations, as requested by Claire the Cat. Another of those songs was Level 3 from Decap Attack. And the final of those 3 songs was Toxic Caves from Sonic Spinball, as requested by Cortex Games. It's a quiz. We got a quiz. We got a quiz. When a quiz happens, you can guess in chat, but you don't have to. You can chat. We'll let you know the answer afterwards. And this one's a triple trouble, because that's the one that comes third. 3 of these things have something in common. 1 does not belong. Which one doesn't belong? Let's take a look. Triple trouble topic is Tails Adventure items. Choices are large bombs, rolling bomb, triple bomb, and napalm bomb. One of these things does not belong within that topic. The other 3 have something significantly in common. Let me know in chat if you want to. If not, we'll let you know the answer afterwards. And we're going to listen to some Coco Island from Tails Adventure, which is not a very long song, so you'll get the answer pretty quickly. See you in a bit. Hey, that was Coco Island from Tails Adventure. And once again, the triple trouble was Tails Adventure items, and the choices were large bomb, rolling bomb, triple bomb, or napalm bomb. And if, like those in chat, were able to correctly guess, it is in fact rolling bomb. The other ones are actual real items in the game. Large bomb is a real item. Triple bomb is. Napalm bomb is. In fact, that's what's up on the screen right now. Rolling bomb's not a real item. The closest thing to it would be the remote bomb, which you can remotely detonate, but will slide a little bit once you throw it. But rolling bomb's not an actual thing. It's not an item in the game. The rest of them are. So if you guessed correctly, good guess. That's our last, yeah, napalm bomb is an actual bomb. Effectively, its behavior is once it hits the ground, it creates a lingering explosion that continues forward, for a bit. It sure is in there. It sure is in there. We're gonna accelerate to the ending tonight. We got one more trio of songs before we wrap up, just because, you know, it's been a weird night, and I'm not here to tempt fate. We got a late start. We got a bunch of disconnects. I was out here trying to figure out an acceptable font to make chat. But we're just gonna keep going. And yes, indeed. Tails is a war criminal. Remember that in every feature Sonic game. Have some Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But not the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 that you're thinking of. It's a different Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But not the movie. It's not that one, because I don't want to play music from the Paramount film, because they seem like they would be the most inclined to hit our channel with a copyright. Here's the simple Sonic 2, the one on the Game Gears or the Master System. See you in a bit. Hey, and welcome back. Those were some songs. Some of them were Underground Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Others of them were Under Logic from Streets of Rage 2. And yet further were Black Comet from Shadow the Hedgehog 2. Wait, I shouldn't have announced that. Crap. Dread's gonna kill me. Well. Anyhow. Hey. As always, like, hey, we're gonna wrap things up for the night. Just a smidge. My opinions are my own, but the show broadly is under the banner of Sonic Stadium over at sonicstadium.org, one of the internet's longest-running Sonic fan communities. We've got news, we've got forums, we've got streaming shows, we've got YouTube stuff, we've got Discord. You can go bug me on the Discord if you ever need to bug me on the Discord. And whenever you want to make your requests, you can send your requests over to the forums or to the Discord. Or on Fridays to the Blue Skies or the bad one. The one that's not as good as the Blue Skies. That I only use for the purposes of Sonic Stadium. But you can do it! I can't stop you. I could technically stop you by not posting it there, but I'm not going to stop you. I'm gonna, hey, if someone cares enough to leave a request there, I will pay attention to it. We're gonna end tonight on an OC Remix. See, I promised you. I promised you that I was going to do an OC Remix by the end of the night. And I'm staying true to my word. It's gonna be an OC Remix. So I hope you're ready for that. For you see, this one is Mythic Mist from Sonic 2. It's a remix of the Mystic Cave, which was the one I used in the thumbnail, which surprisingly no one requested. Maybe it was too obvious. But it's a remix from Pirate Crab. You can get it and many more remixes over at ocremix.org. Go enjoy! Have a fun time with this remix. And above all else, welcome to the weekend. Catch you guys next time. Show. Mostly a show. It's mostly a show. But like, what if one more song? What if I dug through my library and found another song? I could probably do that. What if it was this song? I could probably play this song. This is a song.